It's my nerd world. Welcome to it, a Star Wars podcast. Took a week off, but I'm back. Got a lot of interesting rumors and details to share with you this week. New Book of Boba Fett scene details, that drops in December. We'll share with you what Star Wars Newsnet seems to have uncovered. Making Star Wars is back on YouTube, and they have some very specific details of the rematch of the century, rematch of a lifetime, the big rematch, as Kathleen Kennedy called it, between Obi Wan Kenobi and Vader in the upcoming Obi Wan Kenobi live-action series. New book gives more details about the Dyad, and a little bit of listener feedback. So, sorry we took a week off, but we are back to talk Star Wars. So glad you're with the show this week. Let's go ahead and get right to it.
It's an instinct. Feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Long have I waited. And now, you're coming together. Is your undoing.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
My Nerd World.
It is my Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast, and I'm your host, Jon Justice. Took a week off. If you saw my calendar, you would understand why. But we are back with a lot of really exciting details about some of the upcoming live-action shows to hit Disney+, plus a Disney++. Also, a new book, Star Wars Secrets of the Sith. Some people have been posting up screenshots of details from that book, and I'll share with you one that I found most interesting a little bit later on in the show. Plus, we have a little bit of listener feedback as well. You can always email talkshownerd@gmail.com, and remember, you can go to the website mynerdworld.net to find out about all things My Nerd World, including where you can purchase the EMBARK science fiction space opera series written by myself, Jon Justice. And right now, again, you can pick up the box set of the first 3 books, which make a complete trilogy. EMBARK Book 1, Treasure in Darkness Book 2, and The Vanishing War Book 3. You can pick those up in ebook right now at a discounted price at Amazon.com or just by going to mynerdworld.net. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into some interesting leaks that have come out for the Book of Boba Fett and the Obi Wan Kenobi live-action show.
The hyperdrive is leaking.
The first bit comes from Star Wars Newsnet. They have been pretty solid when it comes to their leaking and their rumors in the past, and they bring a Book of Boba Fett scene description, and it goes as follows. Boba Fett will be encountering and quite possibly taming, controlling a Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett. Star Wars Newsnet says our source was not completely positive on whether Fett is fighting the beast or controlling it, but Fett is standing on the back of the Rancor's neck and looks like he's riding and controlling it as it tears through a complex city street on what looks likely to be Tatooine. They had an artist recreate a rendering based off the details that they were told, and that includes the Rancor wearing a huge chest plate armor and wrist guards. The Rancor is said to be much lighter in complexion than the Rancor that Luke Skywalker killed in Return of the Jedi, and is more of a sandy color. They go on to say, our apologies to Maliki, the Rancor keeper from Jedi, who might have been hoping this beloved pet survived, much like Boba Fett did from Return of the Jedi. Look, it sounds like an incredibly plausible scene. There's no doubt about that at all. And what I find interesting about the potential of the Book of Boba Fett is that, unlike The Mandalorian, we were completely unaware of what to expect when it came to The Mandalorian, right? What kind of bounty hunter was he going to be, right? We went into The Mandalorian very much unaware of what his stature was within the bounty hunting world, right? The bounty hunting community. And he's kind of a complex character, right? You wouldn't say he's the best of all the bounty hunters. He's got heart. Obviously, one of the best bounty hunters. But when it comes to Boba Fett, Boba Fett has, within Legends, and I would say a little less so in canon, but certainly throughout the course of all of the storytelling, whether that's Legends or canon, Boba Fett has always been touted as being one of the best bounty hunters in the galaxy, right? One of the most fierce. We saw that come to fruition in The Mandalorian Season 2. And again, that's not a slight on Din Djarin by any stretch of the imagination, but Boba Fett has a bit of legacy behind him. So with that being said, it makes sense that we would get a scene like this of him doing something extreme, like going and riding a Rancor. I expect Boba Fett to be portrayed as a much more aggressive, ruthless bounty hunter, as opposed to the Mandalorian, who is incredibly skilled but still has quite a bit of heart. Either way, I'm excited to see it. It's going to look great if that scene is actually correct. What they're able to do with the special effects, now, whether it's in the live action or obviously in film, is nothing. There's nothing they can't do anymore when it comes to the special effects. I'm getting so excited for Dune later on this week, and there was a new Japanese trailer that dropped, I think, last week or the week before, and the way that they can tell stories now using visual effects and everything just looks photoreal, it's simply incredible. And that certainly rang true when I saw the most recent trailer and all of the footage. So again, a scene like that, is going to come off pretty darn awesome. And for what it is, just sounds like a fun little action sequence. All right, keeping with the rumor mill. Making Star Wars and Jason Ward has popped back up on YouTube. They've been doing, I don't know if they're daily shows, but I know he has quite a few shows every week, very lengthy, with some new hosts. Talked about Making Star Wars before on the podcast, a lot of controversy around the host, Jason Ward, and kind of was banned a bit from Reddit. Don't want to get into any of that. He still has his sources, though, and has been leaking quite a few new details about upcoming projects, including shooting schedules for The Mandalorian, some set photos. This particular item, though, is really, really interesting. And if you want to go in fresh into the Obi Wan Kenobi live action show, then I suggest you skip forward a little bit, because this is pretty revealing stuff that I'm about to share from Making Star Wars and the rumors that he has. So you've been warned. Let's go ahead and move forward. New details on Obi Wan Kenobi, including the duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. The infamous leaker, Making Star Wars, has released new details on Obi Wan Kenobi. Somebody on Reddit was kind enough to go and summarize it all. We are getting peak Obi Wan Kenobi in the series. Obi-Wan is dispatched to rescue a prisoner that is very important to the cause. Now, there has been some speculation that this could indeed be Princess Leia. That comes from some other sources many weeks ago, if not months ago. That is not included in this list of details of what's coming up in the Obi Wan Kenobi show. The prisoner is being held captive by Inquisitors, of which the main one is played by Moses Ingram. the success of this mission catches Vader's attention as he departs his castle in his TIE Advanced. The more details, assuming this is true, like the more details we get of this, the more hyped I get for it. Obviously, Vader's castle, I've mentioned it many times on the show. That is something that I want to spend a lot of time seeing. Love Vader's castle. And the fact that we get to see those connections back to the original trilogy, like his advanced tie, get me even more excited. In the duel with Vader, Obi-Wan is wearing what looks very similar to his Return of the Sith outfit, but without the robes. Just the white tunic, and it's very tattered. Vader's suit appears pretty much identical to the one in Rogue One. I've said this in the past, but I'm going to bring it up again. That was the only issue that I really had with Rogue One. Was at the end of Rogue One, we're supposed to be going right from Rogue One directly into A New Hope. Vader's suit doesn't line up, in my opinion. The suit that he's wearing at the end of Rogue One looks too clean. There is a very handcrafted look to Vader's helmet specifically from A New Hope, right? Obviously not having the technology to create the costumes that they do now, they're going to have to handcraft a lot of this, hand carve it. And Vader's helmet has, it has very distinct weathering and contours on it in A New Hope that just don't line up to what we saw in Rogue One. The Rogue One suit just looked too fresh, in my opinion. It is a minor detail, does not take away from my enjoyment of that movie whatsoever, but just wanted to bring it up for the sake of argument. Obi-Wan appears very confident during the duel. He immediately recognizes who is under the suit. When Vader gets ready to engage, Obi-Wan force pushes him what looks like to be about 50 feet. Vader is launched into the air and hits a rock wall. Vader slowly gets up and advances towards his moment of revenge. The ground and rock formation of the duel looked like Jeddah, but it could be a completely different planet. Somebody had said that it looked like, for those that are familiar, the Vasquez Rocks in Southern California, for those that are familiar with that region. The duel is massive and took 2 weeks to shoot back in August. Hayden Christensen was not in the suit during these fight sequences shot in August. However, that's not to say that Hayden doesn't do anything. And as I've established before on the show and what's been established inside canon, Vader can live without the helmet. We know that Vader can. We know Vader can do that. He's not wearing it in The Empire Strikes Back. When he's in his chamber, the chamber comes down and the helmet goes on his head. We know that he survived traveling from Mustafar back to Coruscant, not wearing the helmet. Obviously, it helps him breathe, but he can wear without it. So my assumption is we are going to be seeing Hayden Christensen outside of the helmet, either sans any kind of breathing device whatsoever, or at a bare minimum, a smaller breathing device that we can see him in total. Look, hearing about this gets me really, really hyped for all the reasons that I just mentioned a moment ago. And it'll be interesting to see if they take any time in the show to perhaps allude to why the fight in A New Hope is so tame by comparison to what we potentially are going to see in the Obi Wan Kenobi movie, and certainly what we saw in Revenge of the Sith. Time waits for no man, or an individual who is partly man and machine. Okay, so there's that part of it. But it'll be interesting to see if there is enough fatigue or damage done to both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Vader to perhaps allude to why, we all know why, for practical reasons of why that particular fight in A New Hope is so much slower, based off of the ability of the time to go and choreograph and shoot a saber fight that was supposed to be a much slower type of technical fight than what we see in the rest of the Star Wars films. But again, I'll be curious to see whether or not they address that and perhaps give us some type of reasoning to justify that. I've always been on the side of actually going back to A New Hope and reshooting that. If you've been on YouTube and you've seen some individuals who have taken the time, to go and create and rework that duel on the Death Star from A New Hope. I could totally see that working, and I personally would have no problem with that. I think, though, the vast majority of people would probably think that was sacrilege to go that far, especially given how much people didn't like those special editions, which I happen to love. All right, let's move on to some new official canon news from a recently released book.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
There is a new book that has been released. It's called Star Wars: Secrets of the Sith, and individuals have been posting screenshots from that particular book. Really interesting stuff. Actually, it's something that I might want to consider picking up myself. One particular photo that was put up on Reddit from the book that was interesting was our first canon look at Plagueis. It shows Vader, it shows Palpatine, and then it shows Plagueis, all in, art, all done via artwork, right? Not photos. However, Plagueis just shows a hooded figure. Can't see his face, just two red eyes. So you're not really getting much with that. They're not going to go, if they ever do, they'll eventually do something with Plagueis in live action, right? I have no doubt about that at all. So they're certainly not going to make any kind of reveal in a random doing that thing with my fingers book that's been released. However, this particular nugget I found really interesting because I loved the edition. I loved all the editions in the sequel trilogy, but I particularly liked the edition of the concept of the Dyad. And this is what this screenshot from Star Wars Secrets of the Sith had to say, the two that are one. For a millennium, the Sith have adhered to the rule of two, but this decree is said to merely be a pale imitation of its predecessor, the doctrine of the Dyad. Legends claim that two beings sharing this profound connection gain access to a great number of abilities, skills beyond the grasp of even the most powerful Force wielder. Members of a Dyad were believed to be capable of transferring their life force to heal others. Some could even pass physical objects through time, through time and space in an instant. If two Sith were bonded so deeply as to transcend their physical beings, the power they could unlock together would know no limits. So again, nothing too groundbreaking in this particular item. I just thought it was interesting, and I like the continued addition of canonical material, whether in book form or movie form. Well, I should say, whether, I like the further establishing of what we learned in The Rise of Skywalker. For as much as people had issues with that film and the sequel trilogy and The Last Jedi, my Yoda Bluetooth speaker was turning off there just a moment ago. I do like it when they continue to build upon what was shown and what was exposed within those films. I feel like it adds some really good depth. Some people need it, some people don't. I appreciate it. A lot of people don't appreciate it, think they're trying to go and retcon or trying to justify it. But I think it's cool, and I thought the concept of the Dyad was awesome. In as much as I thought that the rule of two within the Sith was awesome. I like this idea of adding to the mythology of what we learned so long ago, and whether or not that was George Lucas's ideas in the first place. If it wasn't, hat tip to the story group and the writers for coming up with that concept of the Dyad. And I really do hope that it's something that gets addressed further in other material and in other films. As always, what do you think? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com is the email address. You can always leave a comment up on YouTube. I get those as well. And speaking of which, we now reach the listener feedback portion of the show.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Next year is going to be a really, really busy year. We're going to have so much Star Wars to talk about, right? And as we get closer and closer to the end of this year with more details about the Book of Boba Fett, obviously we're getting some more nuggets to go and chew on. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you guys. Speaking of which, I want to thank Lewis from Kentucky for reaching out, and he wrote this. Hello, John. My favorite character from Star Wars Legends is Mara Jade. There has been some speculation recently on Reddit about her and the possibility of introducing her into canon. Her backstory of serving the Emperor before turning away from the dark side and eventually marrying Luke is perfect for one of the upcoming Disney shows. Her introduction in The Mandalorian or maybe Ahsoka fits her timeline. Anyways, I wanted your thoughts on her and whether or not you think this could happen. As always, thanks for the great podcast, Lewis from Kentucky. Thank you so much, Lewis, for reaching out. Mara Jade's an interesting one because George Lucas has been very upfront that he didn't like Mara Jade. Well, okay, let me put it this way. It's been said that George Lucas has been very upfront that he didn't like Mara Jade. I don't personally remember any specific quotes to allude as such. I just remember reading that was a character that George Lucas didn't necessarily care for. That being said, we do know that she played a huge role within what is now Legends and what was before the expanded universe. I could see the introduction of Mara Jade. I would be surprised to see any deep connection to Luke Skywalker beyond perhaps I don't want to say perhaps something passing. I don't know. I would be very I would be surprised to see them introduce Mara Jade into canon. Say in the Book of Boba Fett. So in the Book of Boba Fett, we've gotten a lot of rumors that you're going to see a lot of legacy characters that are going to be crossing in and out of that particular show, including Luke Skywalker with Grogu, including potentially Han Solo. So could you inject a Mara Jade into that and give her a close connection to Luke? You could, but I would be kind of surprised if they did that. We obviously know that she doesn't stick with him, right? There is no mention of her when you look to the sequel trilogy and him starting the Jedi Temple, so this would all have to be something that was beforehand. It could certainly add some depth to Luke, and as I'm even talking about it, I guess I'm kind of convincing myself that I could see the possibility that they could do an introduction of Mara Jade and have a storyline of her kind of coming into Luke's life and then leaving Luke's life as well. Or they could bring her into the canon and change up the dynamic or timeline, such in the same way as they did with Thrawn. So, never say never. I'm not putting a lot of stock in the rumors we've seen on Reddit. I haven't seen any sources that I particularly trust come out with anything concrete with that. But given her popularity in the past from the expanded universe and Legends, I think that it's absolutely possible. And as always, thank you so much for the email this week. I really do appreciate it. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Again, that is the email address. And that wraps up the show this week. Just getting in and getting out. Giving you the rumors. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did recording it. Being a sci-fi fan, and I talked about this, I think, on the last episode. If you haven't checked out Foundation, if you have Apple Plus, definitely check out Foundation. Based off of the Isaac Asimov books, of which I haven't read. This is a fantastic show. I said this before, put subtitles on. I'm not a big fan of the subtitles. However, it certainly does go and help when you're watching Foundation. But that is a show that has really impressed myself, and if you are not sold by that, then just know that my wife is incredibly into it as well. For as much as I'm excited about Dune coming out on Friday, I'm now at a point where Dune's going to have to step it up compared to what they've been able to do with Foundation. From the art direction, to the costumes, to the special effects, to the storyline, to the acting, to the actors, I can't say enough good things about that series. So if you have the opportunity to check it out, give it a shot, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's pretty heavy on the sci-fi front, but it is just absolutely fantastic entertainment, and I hope you'll go and check it out. All right, that wraps it up. Again, thank you so much for checking out the show this week. I always appreciate it. Sorry for taking the week off. Like I said, life gets in the way, and things got really busy. Things still are busy. I'm looking at my calendar right now, and Oh my gosh, I've got way too many things on my plate that need to be off my plate. Head on over to mynerdworld.net, and again, you can find out about all things My Nerd World, and check out the EMBARK science fiction space opera series. Did a book signing this week with a bunch of listeners. That was a lot of fun at the Vaping Studio here in Hopkins, Minnesota. My first ever book signing, and was really, really happy with how things went out. It was so great to go and meet readers of the books and individuals who picked up the books to try them for the first time. If you head on over to Amazon.com and search for EMBARK and Jon Justice, hold on. I desperately needed to get a drink of water there. You can pick up the entire series, available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook. And as I mentioned before, if you search for EMBARK Trilogy on Amazon, and Jon Justice, Jon, you can get the first 3 books in ebook for just $2.99. Space opera fans will be thrilled with this explosive opening trilogy in the EMBARK series. Katha's father passed away 1 year ago. Yesterday, he gave her the key to saving humanity. She just doesn't know it yet. All Katha knew of her beloved father in his final years was that he was an aerospace engineer for a secret organization. Devastated after her loss, Katha focused on one thing, honing her skills as a pilot. Unaware that an industrial accident at a D Corp civilian and military spacecraft factory has set off an apocalyptic chain of events, Katha suddenly receives a cryptic message leading her to a shocking discovery. When the ruthless Synargum of D Corp moves to exploit the global evacuation and gain control, Katha can't escape her destiny. With the help of a ragtag squadron of pilots, Katha must unravel the mystery of what her father left behind if there is any hope of saving humanity from the tyranny of D Corp's evil leader. Buy EMBARK, the trilogy, today, again, on Amazon.com. Search for EMBARK Trilogy and Jon Justice, or just search EMBARK, Jon Justice, and you can check out all 6 books that are released right now in the series. All right, that's it for this week. We'll be back again next week with all the latest news and rumors. Until then, here's Obi Wan Kenobi to say goodbye. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe, and I'll talk to you again next week.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.